have a unanimous
yields
consent?
back.
Mr. Chairman, a unanimous consent
Gentleman's
request.
recognized.
I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the Supreme Court's opinion in Murphy versus Missouri, especially footnote 4, which states that the factual findings about alleged government censorship on social media, quote,
Point of
appear
order.
to be
Doesn't the
clearly
document
erroneous.
just go in?
Unquote.
Without objection. Without objection. The gentlewoman from Washington is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are many issues in this committee's jurisdiction that are top of mind for the American people, like the constitutional crisis that we face when the Vice President suggests that we don't need to listen to the judicial branch, or when the administration takes repeated actions to undermine the Article I powers of Congress. Or how about if we use this hearing to take on the giant profiteering corporations that use monopolistic practices to raise prices and drive out competition? Remember when candidate Trump said that he was vowing to reduce prices on day one? Well, here we are, almost 1 month into the Trump presidency, and not only have Republicans done absolutely nothing to lower prices, but their policies are actually driving up prices, as today's financial data showed. But instead of dealing with that, we're here wasting time on repeatedly debunked accusations of censorship, even as the real censorship is happening right before our eyes. Donald Trump's assault on free speech rights through a series of executive orders that dictate terms of allowable expression and identities, demand political loyalty from all civil servants, and punish anyone who dissents. One of the executive orders requires federal government agencies to, quote, remove all statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, or other internal and external messages that promote or otherwise inculcate gender ideology, and to cease issuing such statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, or other messages. This executive order has now been used by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to send out guidance prohibiting the use of terms like gender, transgender, pregnant person, transsexual, and non-binary. Mr. Aaron, how does this lead to direct or indirect censorship of employees in their role as private citizens?
Well, I think it's very concerning, Congresswoman, the idea that in order to receive government funding to do scientific research, to provide health care, to provide community services, that you have to read from an approved list of words, or if you use one of the words that's on the banned list, you could lose your entire funding. You could have to fire your staff. You could have to get rid of essential programs simply to push, speaking of ideology, an ideological agenda. I think that's very, very worrisome and so unnecessarily cruel on top of it.
Transgender individuals constitute a small but important minority of the federal workforce. They serve in public health, economic, and national security positions alongside thousands of non-transgender coworkers. What impact, Mr. Aaron, does censorship of transgender employees have on the broader federal workforce and its ability to serve the American people?
Well, it forces government employees to essentially go into hiding, to have to hide who they are and what their identity is, to feel that they're being watched by their colleagues, to essentially ask their colleagues to erase their existence, whether that's from government websites or from the ability to simply meet with other people in the government who may share their identity. I think it's a massive overreach that's really an attack on all of us. It's an attack on all of us.
Another executive order directs the termination of all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government. As a result, staff at the National Science Foundation have been combing through thousands of active science research projects alongside a list of keywords to determine whether or not those grants should be halted. These keywords include words and phrases like activism, equal opportunity, institutional, underrepresented, and get this one, women. Do these actions, Mr. Aaron, constrain academic freedom or the ability of researchers to freely express their views?
It seems to be an insane way to decide what our scientific researchers or other researchers should be studying. The idea of cutting off funding via keyword as opposed to evaluating independent academic projects, as opposed to evaluating, is this a good cure for disease? Are we going to be able to research cancer? And the idea that that could be stymied or cut off because somebody used the wrong word, incredibly chilling.
The NSF funds about 25% of basic academic research in the United States, including critical research on medical devices, quantum physics, and artificial intelligence. What effect does mass censorship of NSF-funded research have on our ability as a country to advance scientific and technological development?
The scientists need to be in charge of the science. I think that's what it comes down to. The idea that we are making decisions about what our research priorities should be by inserting AI to look for keywords. AI can barely handle your airline reservations and get it right, or your searches online. So I think it's a big problem.
Expired.
I thank the gentleman, and I
Yield back. Gentleman from New Jersey is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all,